What's going on, guys? My name is Eric Brown Jr., and this is my PowerPoint on orientation for offshore workers. In this PowerPoint, we will be covering 33 CFR 142 subparts A through C. So to begin, we got Part A, which covers 142.1 through 142.7, and on this first subpart A is it's just a little overview of everything. So here we go with general. This is just the general things about working offshore. So the purpose of this part, this sub A, is to promote workplace safety and health by establishing requirements, kind of letting you know what's going on, safety requirements, and, how to be safe working on a rig. And that's CFR standard 142.133. Okay, so the title. This title is duties of lessees, permittees, and persons responsible for actual operations. So this includes all your higher ups. This doesn't really apply to your deckhands and stuff like that. This is for the people in charge who set out the safety standards, make sure the workplace is safe, stuff like that. So their job is to recognize and observe all safety regulations. So it's not only their job to write the standards or enforce the standards that the Coast Guard, OSHA, Bessie, all them put out, but it's also their job to enforce them. And if they see a crew member not following them, then it's their job to correct it. And as you can see, standard 142.4. I won't be reading those for the rest of the PowerPoint, but they're just there for reference. So the next title is reports of unsafe working conditions. So it is everybody's job on the boat to report all unsafe working conditions. This is very important because one little mistake, not covering a manhole cover, that can lead to death. Somebody not wearing eye protection when it's needed, you could lose an eye. It's just very important that everybody stays safe and to report any unsafe working condition. You don't have to report it to the owner of the company, but give the guy who's not wearing his proper PE, hey, make sure you put it on. If it becomes a problem after that, then you go to the foreman and you work your way up the chain after that. Okay, so part B of subsection A is personal protective equipment. There's your standards. So so we're gonna go into it. This subpart B. So the purpose and applicability part of this is this section is to define all the proper PPE required for all situations. For this PPE, PPE is pretty standard on a barge. FR is usually jeans and a t-shirt. Working on deck and stuff like that, life jacket, hard hat, safety glasses, that's required. When you go into the engine room and stuff, it can change. They might require FR jumpsuits to be worn or FR shirts to be worn while working on the engines, just in the possibility of a fire. But it just depends on the boat and the company's rules and policies. Our next section is use of equipment. So make sure that the proper PPE is worn in every circumstance. PPE can change as the job scope changes. Working outside, life jacket's going to be required. Inside, life jackets aren't required. You have no risk of falling in the ocean inside the ship. Another important key part is that make sure the PPE is worn correctly. You can have a life jacket on, but if it's not buckled up, it might not save your life if you fall overboard. Eyeglasses, make sure you're not wearing darks when it's nighttime outside. Just something, be safe, be mindful of what you're doing. So the next PPE part is eye and face protection. So you got to know when to wear the proper face protection. So, outside, tying ropes or, doing minuscule work, safety glasses, all that's needed. Now, if you're cleaning the tank, grinding, welding, higher levels of PPE are going to be needed. Grinding, you're going to need a face shield. That'll help it'll help not let all the particles get in, to your face, potentially damage something. You got to identify different types of PPE. You got your eyeglasses, you got goggles, hard hat. There's all different kinds, and it all depends on what the job scope is. It's also very important that you maintain your PPE. Eyeglasses with only one safety lens in, and they ain't doing you no good. So it's important that you maintain and keep up with it. Okay, so next we have head protection. This is, I'm gonna say, not as important as if working on a construction job or Plane or something like that. If you're just going down the ocean, heading to a rig on a barge or a ship like that, head protection is a little more lax. But anytime you're working on a rig or transporting fuel, transporting materials via a crane, you got to wear a hard hat. I mean, that's just the industry kind of standard. Whether it's going to be enforced or not, it's up to your captain and everything like that. But it's important that a hard hat is accessible at all times. Make sure your hard hat is free of cracks. Just make sure it's up to code. Hard hats actually expire, believe it or not. So it's important that you keep yours updated and make sure that it's good. And again, you can buy your own hard hat, but employers are mandated to give you one. So next we have foot protection. So foot protection is important. Sharp corners on boats, so it's very easy to stub your toe or something like that. So steel toe is always a good option and mandatory most places. There's various different types of steel toe boots out there, steel toe shoes. Boots or shoes, it's up to your employer. I mean, most people want boots, but you can shoe as long as they're steel toe shoes, you should be okay. Here I have two different options. In the left, you'll see I have a regular boot, steel toe, very comfortable, can be inexpensive to expensive depending on comfort level, brand, stuff like that. On your right, I see a lot of older folks wearing these. The lace ups, a little more, provide a little more comfort, a little more stability to the ankle. Overall, very good boot too. Again, as they wear out, replace them. Once you have a hole in the boot, they ain't gonna do you much good. If the sole falls out or stuff like that. Just be mindful, replace it when you can, and yeah. So next we have protective clothing. This is where it gets different from plants and other things like that. On the water, FRs aren't necessarily needed all the time. Like I said, FRs are needed, engine room stuff where explosion is possible. But on deck, short sleeve t-shirt, pants, steel toe boots is all that's really needed. Gloves needed when doing anything. But it's important just to identify your hazards and put on the correct PPP from there. And that's about it for that. Respiratory protection, again, know your job scope. Once you realize your job scope, everything else will fall in place. If you're cleaning a tank, LELs are high, boom, you're going to need air. You have to go into a full face respirator. Grinding, stuff like that, painting, you might only need cartridges. Just depending on the paint makeup, the chemical makeup of everything. Just be aware and be smart. Again, maintain, clean your respirators after every use, change cartridges after every use. Just simple things like that to help you stay safe in the future. Safety belts in line. Anytime a 10 feet or more drop is part of the job scope, a safety harness, safety belt is required. Depending on what's going on, you may drop down to 6 feet. You might have to wear one. Just depends on what's going on, who's your safety guy, stuff like that. The only good thing about safety belts is on this 10 feet or more drop, you are not required to wear a life jacket because you have this fall arrest system in place. Again, maintain and make sure they're fitted to your body. Don't just grab a random one and put it on, because if you fall, it's not going to save your life because it's not adjusted to your body. Personal flotation devices, otherwise known as life jackets. These must be worn around water all the time. On deck, they're not required to wear it once you get inside the ship, but on deck, around the water, must be maintained, must be worn. On the rig, must be worn while outside. Exception is if you're wearing a safety harness. Eye wash equipment, these can be fixed or removable, but they must be available near any job site where chemicals can be possibly splashed into your eyes. On the left, you have this is an example of a permanent or fixed eye wash station. This is hooked up to water and stays where it's at. On the right is a portable one. This can be carried around. It's got its own little chemical and water thing in it, and they can be reused. Some of them can be reused. Okay, so this is the final part that we'll go over in this PowerPoint. This is subpart C, general workplace conditions. So the purpose of this section is to kind of go over requirements relating to the workplace conditions. This has everything to do with like safety data sheets, being safe overall, like learning how to identify hazards. Very, very common sense stuff, but stuff that still needs to be gone over. So housekeeping. This is a very often overlooked part of a job site, in my opinion. Make sure job sites are clear of all working hazards. Water bottles, pick them up, throw them away. Trash, cigarette butts. It's all them little things that potentially by themselves aren't big, but have the potential to cause an accident or something like that. So, just keep your area clean. Again, be aware, throw stuff away. So, deck openings. This is important on ships, barges, all kind of things like that. All openings, or manhole covers, or anything like that. They have to be covered or guarded. So, on your right, you see a manhole cover with the bolts. In my experience, as long as it's on, they don't have to be bolted down necessarily if hot work's being done inside a tank or cleaning's being done. As long as they're covered up is good. On your left, this is a barrier, I guess is all it really is, but it's enough to deter people from accidentally walking into and not paying attention and falling in the tank. So it's just a very good it's just another example of a good cover. Lockout, tag out. This you see a lot in plants, but again, same principle applies on the water offshore. While repairing anything, it's got to be locked out. If it can power on, it's got to be locked out. So that means it's turned off. The lock and the tag is in a place where it stops it. It will stop the machine from turning on unless that lock is removed. The tag got to be present to identify the hazards, what it does, things like that. If the machine is necessary to, say you're in the kitchen, okay, you need power to help fix something in the kitchen, whether you're doing floors or something like that. That's the only way that the machinery can still be powered on during a lockout tag out if it's essential to the work that's going on. All right, thank you.